Chapter 12 The Mirror of Erised. Christmas was coming. One morning in mid-December, Hogwarts woke to find itself covered in several feet of snow. The lake froze solid, and the Weasley twins were punished for bewitching several snowballs so that they followed Quirrell around. Happy Tuesday, Potterheads! In today's video, we're going to talk about grief and how it's represented primarily by the Mirror of Erised. But first, let's go to the recap. So it's coming up toward Christmas, and Harry and the Weasleys are staying at Hogwarts over the break. Hermione and the boys have been searching for information on Nicholas Flamel, and Hermione reminds them to keep going over break. Ron and Harry play a lot of wizard chess over the break, and it turns out Ron is really good at it. On Christmas morning, Harry is amazed to see he has presents. He gets a sweater from the Weasleys, 50 cents from the Dursleys, chocolate frogs from Hermione, and a present from a mystery person. He opens it up, and it's an invisibility cloak with a note saying it once belonged to his father. Harry has an amazing Christmas, and that night he uses the cloak to sneak out and go to the restricted section of the library. But he accidentally makes a lot of noise and has to run away from Filch. Harry slips into an empty classroom with a strange mirror. When he stands in front of the mirror, he sees his entire family. Harry shows Ron the mirror, but Ron sees something different. Harry keeps going back night after night until Dumbledore catches him and tells him the mirror is going to be moved. Then term starts back up, and Harry has a big Quidditch match coming up. But first, he discovers Nicholas Flamel's name on the back of a chocolate frog card, which gives them a big clue. They find out Snape will be refereeing the match, and they get super worried. So the match starts, and Harry catches the snitch super fast, and Gryffindor wins. Then after the match, Harry sees Snape sneaking off to the forest, so he jumps on his broom and follows him. There, he overhears Snape and Quirrell talking about the stone. Grief is a difficult thing to deal with, so to start off this video, I just want to say a brief word for anyone who may be dealing with it. I am so sorry. Someday you will feel better. If at any point in the video you need to stop, please listen to that impulse. Take care of yourselves. Someday your boots won't be so heavy. Obviously, grief plays a large role in Harry's life. When he was only 1 year old, he lost both of his parents and had only his Aunt Petunia left to take care of him. In these two chapters, we see grief emerge as a major theme, and it's represented in a couple different ways throughout the pages. First, we see the weather getting colder as the grounds sink into winter, and Harry's mood begins to match this change as he grows more sullen and contemplative as he goes into winter break. Grief is a tricky thing. Almost 4 years ago now, we lost my mother-in-law. She was one of the best people that anyone could ever have the luck to know. And just a few months ago, I lost my grandfather after a long battle with cancer. I miss them both daily. It has never stopped hurting, but eventually you learn how to deal with the pain, and over time the pain decreases. Unfortunately, it never really goes away, but you learn to cope. I think this is where Harry is. It's a bit different since he never really got to know his parents, but I'm sure that absence is still felt. Activity can distract you from grief, and I think that's one of the things that's the most misunderstood when it comes to grief is that you aren't always actively sad when you're grieving. So Harry enjoying Christmas still makes sense even if we look at these chapters through the lens of grief. But then something happens, and all of a sudden the grief comes rushing back in for Harry. As he's opening presents on Christmas morning, he begins to unwrap a package that is unmarked and is very light. As we already know, this is the invisibility cloak. With it comes a note in handwriting that Harry doesn't recognize, and on the note it says, "Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well." After 10 years of having nothing to remember his parents, Harry is suddenly holding something that once belonged to his father. Rereading this section after having lost my mother-in-law and my grandfather really did something to me. Sometimes I'll come across something that we've held on to of them, and all of a sudden all those feelings will come rushing back in. But just like Harry, in this moment, again, distractions help. Just a minute after Harry opens up all of his presents, all the rest of the Weasley boys come rushing in, and the twins' joy for life totally distracts Harry from what he was feeling. The narration says later on that Harry had had the best Christmas of his life, but that something in the back of his head had been nagging him the whole time. That night, Harry tries out the cloak for the first time, and he suddenly feels energized and alive. As his father would have wanted, Harry starts breaking the rules and stumbling around the castle after night, and he stumbles upon the Mirror of Erised. I think the cloak and the mirror are two excellent examples of what can happen if you don't have enough help when you're grieving. Like the inimitable Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote in Hamilton, it's that moment when you're in so deep, it feels easier to just swim down. The cloak and the mirror, at first, seem like good things. The cloak allows Harry to withdraw, to disappear. When you're grieving, this can feel like the only way to be safe sometimes. And the mirror gives him something he has never had. The mirror gives him the opportunity to live inside of memory. He can see his whole family for the first time, something he's never been able to do. Up until this point, he's never even known what his parents really look like. It's not terrible that Harry does these things. Memories are important to hold on to, and sometimes withdrawing is okay. But Harry begins to rely on them a little too much. At first, he stumbles upon the mirror by accident. The second time he goes, it's difficult for him to find. But as he keeps going back, it becomes easier for him to remember how to get there, and the pull gets strong. Harry's not eating, he isn't interested in playing wizard chess with Ron, he's not even interested in going down and seeing Hagrid. At this point, Harry's grief isn't being well managed, and it's turning into depression. When you're grieving a loss, what you want most in the world is to be reunited. Harry has lost everyone in his family, so of course he sees his entire family in the mirror. But the mirror isn't truth. It doesn't do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Remember that. You have to move forward. Things will never be the same, and that's not okay, but it has to be. Life will keep moving forward, and you can't be left behind. Thankfully, as we see in chapter 13, there are ways to keep grief at bay. Activity, as we said before, is a big help. Once term starts up again, Harry is able to focus on more than just the mirror. Quidditch practices starting up again help to keep his nightmares away. And when they win their next Quidditch match in such a glorious fashion, Harry remembers that he really is worth something. And the trio having a project that they're working on, trying to find information about Nicholas Flamel, gives Harry something to focus on. All of these things help him recover from his grief, and that's important for us to remind ourselves. It's probably the hardest thing to do when you're feeling your lowest, to get up and get out and do something, but it might just be the most important thing that you can do. All of this makes me wonder about Nicholas and Pernell Flamel. They've lived for nearly 700 years. Surely they've lost everyone that they're close to time and time again. I get it. Death is scary, but having to live through that grief over and over again, I think it's scarier. Personally, I wouldn't want the stone. I can't stand the thought of having to watch everyone that I love leave me. All of that grief, if it weren't for the stone, would probably end up killing me. And that's it for today's topic. Sorry to be a downer, but I think this was a really important topic to discuss openly. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would you use the stone's powers? Now it's time for parenting with Margot. Can you say Harry Potter?
No.
One conversation I'm not looking forward to is having to teach Margot about death. That's just one of the topics that we all know is really impossible to grasp, even when you're a grown-up. But grief is unavoidable. Sooner or later, we all have to deal with it. And it's going to be up to me and Jess to help Margot grapple with loss whenever that day comes. So I want to try and remember this chapter, especially how Dumbledore handles Harry's obsession with the mirror. He doesn't berate Harry or try to tell him that his obsession with the mirror is silly. He doesn't try to tell Harry to just feel better or be happy and know that his family is in a better place. He meets Harry on his level and treats his feelings with respect. At the same time, though, he makes sure Harry knows that it's not a good place to be and that he needs to move forward. I want to try to replicate that anytime Margot is feeling serious sadness. I want to meet her where she is and treat her feelings with respect, but guide her to a place where she can move forward. And that's all for Parenting with... Can you say Dumbledore?
Bumblebee.
Dumbledore.
Bumblebee.
For this week's question, I'm wondering, why was the mirror just in a random place where anyone could stumble upon it? And since we know that the mirror will be the final protection for the stone, what other protections aren't yet in place? How easy would it be for someone to steal the stone before the mirrors move? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And that's it for this week's video. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you really like what we're doing, please, please, please subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Ask them to watch. Ask them to subscribe. Your assignment for next week is chapter 14. That's Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback. It's a tongue twister. So make sure you guys read that by Tuesday. I want to just make one quick announcement. You guys probably noticed that I didn't post a fitness video last Thursday, and it's because I am done doing those. Some of you know, some of you don't, but I am also working on a lot of projects outside of this, and I also have a full-time job, and I'm a father and a husband, and I'm tired. I'm really strapped for time, and those videos stopped being something that I felt like they were doing any good for me and just started becoming stressors. So for my own physical and mental health, I need to take the time off from doing those. So from here on out, I won't be doing fitness videos anymore. But it'll be good because this channel can become focused just on Harry Potter, and it'll give me more time for random extra videos that pop up too. So that's it. If anyone out there really loved the fitness videos, I don't think so, but sorry. So yes, that's that. Read chapter 14 by next Tuesday. Until then, happy reading. Knox!